The Conqueror, a novel by Jan Kjaerstad, translated from the Norwegian by Barbara Havland. Open Letter Press, Literary Translations from the University of Rochester. An excerpt, pages 254 to 255. Victor drank for another reason, too. He had a fanatical obsession with immortality, and believed that aquavit, perhaps because of its name, could help him. Inspired by the old Taoists, who had used alchemy in order to achieve immortality, Victor tried first of all to get his hands on the secret recipes for aquavit, which were kept in the wine monopoly safe, and, when he had no luck here, experimented with combinations of different Norwegian aquavits, in much the same way as whiskey is blended in Scotland, and with drinking various brands in the perfect sequence. "The Taoists concentrated on the minerals cinnabar and gold," said Victor. "I'm going for cumin and alcohol." They enjoyed the aquavit for its own sake, too, naturally, and had many a heated argument as to which one was the best. While Jonas was a fan of Gamle Opland, and was wont to launch into lengthy panegyrics to a flavour so full and rich, and at the same time so smooth and complex, that one had a sense of two forces colliding, or as he put it, coiling towards one another, and rising onto a higher plane. Axel and Victor were almost programmed to give pride of place to Leutenline aquavit. Hence the reason for the map on the opposite wall, a world suspended between bamboo canes, showing the route taken by the ships of the Wilhelmsen line. "Like all good Norwegians, the aquavit has to leave the country in order to become refined," said Axel, raising his glass to the meandering line, denoting the aquavit's 135-day voyage across the 7 seas, a mandala upon which they could meditate while they drank, to truly see the miracle of the passage from potato to golden liquor, a metamorphosis which began with cooling coils and ended with the ocean waves. "Cheers," said Victor. "Here's to the potato, grape of the north." The room was filled with a glorious aroma of new wood and alcohol, combined with the promising smells emanating from the oven in the kitchen, as in an exotic forest, or, why not, a bamboo grove. Other than that, it was the need to discuss things, a yen for upsetting the universe, Victor's words, which brought the 3 wise men together in Sildigsgata, and there's no getting away from it. Seldom, if ever, has so much absolute tripe been served up in a Norwegian living room. As if they were well aware of this themselves, the 3 had developed an ironic method for classifying their arguments, a sort of Richter scale, designed to measure their greater or lesser shock effect by the number of glasses drunk. And if the truth be told, their discussions were usually at their best, and certainly their most entertaining, towards the end of the evening, when they had reached the 10 aquavit arguments. On this particular evening, since the main topic of discussion was the strategy for the mock exam in Norwegian, Victor began with a pretty well-considered theory to the effect that Pet Sounds, by the American group the Beach Boys, was a far more important album, in terms of musical history, than Sgt. Pepper by the British group the Beatles. "It was here, with Brian Wilson's bass harmonica playing, that it all began," said Victor. "The rest was easy." This, particularly because of the comparison with Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, was a typical 2 aquavit argument. The same could be said of Jonas's later assertion, based on outrageously tenuous grounds, that Kierkegaard's engagement to Regine Olsen was broken off because he had syphilis, whereupon Victor introduced a 3 aquavit argument for a new ideology, Merckxism, inspired by the racing cyclist Eddy Merckx, which involved keeping the masses down by showing sport on television, before Axel launched into a tirade about Tojo. "How come we know so flaming little about Tojo when we know such a hell of a lot about Hitler and Mussolini? That crook Tojo was the Second World War's real éminence grise. What fascinated Jonas most was the sum of opinions formed, those leaps from topic to topic, or the points that flew thick and fast, as, for instance, in the poems by Ezra Pound, which Victor sometimes recited while standing by the ever-expanding bookcases. Something new seemed to come into being, not out of the substance of their arguments, but in the gaps between Pet Sounds and Kierkegaard, Eddie Merckx and Hideki Tojo. Then it was time to eat.